Hi, everybody. This is Heather Vickery. You have tuned into the Brave Files podcast. Welcome. We're so happy to have you here with us. This week, I'm talking with educator Erin Smith about the public school systems here in the United States. Listen, there's no denying that our schools are deeply flawed and not at all equitable. Erin, who has 20 years of experience in education, shares his insights on how we can level the playing field and more adequately prepare our children for the real world. He explains how education is far more effective when it's approached as a communal effort. Erin reminds us that kids don't care about what you know until they know how much you care. Tune in to learn how community can change education and what role you can play. One side note, I conducted this interview with Erin before the world faced a global pandemic. Now teachers and families across the nation and across the world are struggling to balance it all, and it's already an imperfect educational system. So because of the drastic changes, I've invited Erin to join me for a live conversation to talk about how the pandemic is affecting children, educators, and families, and what we as a community can do about it. Join me and Dr. Erin Smith live on Thursday, September 3rd at 5 p.m. Central via either the Brave Files Facebook page, our Facebook collective Brave on Purpose, or my YouTube channel. We will have links to both of those in the show notes. Speaking of our Facebook collective, have you joined us yet at Brave on Purpose? This is such a wonderful community, and it's full of people who want to take the reins of their own life. They're ready to step out of fear and into bravery in every possible way. This community is loving, affirming, inspiring, motivating, encouraging, connective. It's really very incredible, and we would love to have you join us. All you have to do is search Brave on Purpose in Facebook and get ready to be part of the most delightful little corner of the internet.
Energetic, motivated, determined.
This is Heather Vickery, and you're listening to The Brave Files, stories from people living courageously. When we choose bravely in big and small ways, it powerfully elevates our lives. I hope these stories connect with you and encourage you to embrace bravery in every possible way, day after day. Together, we can build a movement of courageous living that enriches both our lives and our communities. And if you enjoy the show, I ask you to please share it with others. Maybe think of someone who you want to choose bravely right alongside you. Thanks for tuning in. Now here's the show. Hey everybody, it's Heather Vickery. Welcome to the Brave Files. We have an incredible episode for you today, but before we dive in, I wanted to ask, have you become a supporter of the Brave Files on Patreon yet? You can't imagine, really, you cannot possibly imagine how much love, time, and money goes into producing this show, and we simply cannot do it without the love and support of our Patreons. We have some awesome gifts up on Patreon, but most importantly, by joining our Brave movement, you can be part of building something much bigger than you or any of us can do alone. So please visit us at patreon.com/bravefiles. That's patreon.com/bravefiles today and find a sponsorship level that works for you. Okay, folks. You know, many of you know that I have a passion for equity, equality, justice, and kids. It's not an understatement to say that not all of America's children get the same education, not by a long shot. Many of them are not set up for success post-graduation, if they ever even get to graduation. Today's guest, Dr. Erin Smith, has been an educator for 21 years, and he's seen it all, including poverty, homelessness, bullying, child abuse, and incompetent and uncaring educators. After seeing this so regularly, he was prompted to write a book that hinges on one question: what does it take to build the perfect public school? There's a lot to dig in here. Erin, welcome to the Brave Files.
Hi, Heather. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I have really been looking forward to having this conversation with you.
Oh, absolutely. It seems like forever since we talked about it. I'm just finally, the moment is here.
Yes, thank you for your patience. I have to systemize this recording situation. Otherwise, the podcast owns me instead of me owning it. So I appreciate your understanding there. Okay, so can you start by giving us a little history of your educational background?
Sure. Been in education for over 20 years, as you shared, and I actually started off as a math teacher. So, really developed a lot of middle school and high school students, teaching everything from algebra to trig and elementary functions. I then got inspired by a mentor who said you should be an administrator. So thought, why not? So, nothing better to do. And I got my license to be an administrator, and then I just kept going for my PhD, and I got an educational leadership.
Awesome. So how did it feel going from being an in the classroom teacher to an educator? Was that a change that you enjoyed?
Yes and no. I felt like there was days that I wasn't connecting with the kids, which is really what I love doing.
Yeah.
But I realized it took me a few years into becoming an administrator that you connect with kids by being in the classroom. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we all have meetings we have to do, but the more you get in the classroom and see what they're doing, support them, support the teachers, then you're really helping kids in a greater capacity.
Is that something that most administrators do often? So my younger two kids go to the children's school, which is a private progressive education school. Now, our administrative team goes in the classroom a lot, but I don't know that I see that a lot in the public school system. Is that commonplace?
It honestly depends on the culture of the building and really the leadership that develops it. We want to be in the classrooms because we know that's where we can make a difference.
Yeah.
You learn about the kids' stories. You understand what teachers need. And sometimes that extra set of eyes can hopefully redevelop a lesson plan to make it even better than what they're currently seeing now.
Yeah, that's awesome. I hope that more and more administrators are doing that. I don't ever recall that from my own school experience. So, okay. So then you went into leadership. What does that mean exactly?
Leadership basically is the ability to guide, transform, and help the building envision what a future is about. How do you make the change of a current stool status to really something more progressive, more modern, something more fulfilling?
We've got a little ding back there.
That's my school bell. That's lunch is here.
Okay, lunch is here. Wow, it's really early here. I'm like, I haven't even had breakfast yet. Okay, all right. That makes a lot of sense. So at what point in this educational journey for you did you start to say, man, we have a problem?
It really wasn't long. My first job was actually in downtown Newport News, where I saw it the first day coming in. Literally kids that were homeless, in poverty, and you could just tell they had a hard life. Yeah. But at first I really didn't know how to connect with them. I was, empathizing with them, but I really didn't know how to find out to support them. And thankfully it was a really good team down there. I had a phenomenal administrator, and they coached me through these series of working with kids.
Okay.
And sometimes it's just sitting down with them one-on-one during lunchtime. Sometimes it's just holding them back before they go to PE. Maybe calling parents, not to say there's a bad situation, but hey, from a parent to a parent, this is what I'm seeing. Mm-hmm. Kids don't care about what you know until they know that you care.
Yeah.
And to me, the more you can show that, the more they're going to work for anything that you ask them to do.
Absolutely. I was always that kind of student, and I'm absolutely that kind of adult. I worked so much harder for teachers that I liked and admired and respected and felt like they cared for me.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think we all do. In our careers, when you have a boss that is truly incredible and gives you the opportunity to stretch your wings, to dream, and to build it, I mean, that's exactly what you want to do in life. I mean, to me, that's what changes from a job to a career, is taking new, fresh ideas and spinning it into the vision and the mission of what you want it to be. Yeah,
I love that. One of the things I've heard you say is that all students must graduate confident and competent for the workplace. What does that mean?
Well, let me define the workplace a little bit to kind of make it easier for the audience. In my humble definition, the workplace means one of three areas right after high school. That could be the military. That could be like jobs, already going into apprenticeships and things. And it could also mean college. But one of the things that I'm seeing is that even though kids walk across the stage, some of them are actually afraid to actually venture into the next era.
Sure, it was a little terrifying.
It is. I mean, when you think about the cost of college itself, and some parents, they're kicking them out because they're now 18 and on their own. You know, it's a huge transition. So that's where the confidence comes in, is that, you know, when you develop a kid or to develop them academically and mentally, you know, it kind of is a win-win all around, because if you're not successful and you don't have the confidence to back it up, you're going to end up to failure.
Yes, it seems like such a basic concept. Of course, you're going to end up in failure, but how does one do that?
It goes back to the story of the kids. You know, a lot of times these kids have very difficult lives. And I'll pick, for example, an English language student. You know, they may come from a war-torn country, and they may have lost relatives along the way, and they never got a true education. And they just never felt like they had the shot like we really want the kids to have. So it's very easy for them to feel defeated.
Absolutely. But this goes back to, you know, teachers work hard, tireless hours. Those that I know put their own money into whatever they need in the classroom. I've seen teachers at my daughter's school, in the middle school, pull money out of their own pocket to pay for somebody's lunch because they were watching kids not eat. And all of that is incredible. But there's a serious inequity in different schools, in different classrooms. How do we tackle that? How do we solve that problem?
Well, one, it's just like you're giving me the opportunity to work with you today, is number one, we have to make the families aware that it's not just a one school issue.
Right.
It truly is a community approach, because the more we can invest in our schools, the more we reduce homelessness, the more we reduce crime, we decrease teen pregnancies. But more importantly, we develop workforce-ready students. And the way that you do that, number one, is bringing the awareness, but also bringing in the community to say, what are some resources that you can bring into the school? And it doesn't necessarily have to be money. You know, it could be just as simple as a company coming in to tutor kids 2 days a week after school.
Right.
It could be volunteering for a science fair. It's just so many capacities that they could do that. But while you're bridging these networks, you also have to look into funding opportunities. You
Right.
have to look into grants. And especially in impoverished areas, that is one of the best hidden treasures, is you have to unearth some of these grants so that you can get the latest technology. You get the best professional development that's out there. Because unfortunately, the school divisions just don't have the budgets to really do what they need to do in the classrooms.
Right. But the key to that, you know, I've done a lot of social justice work and anti-racism work. And the key to that is somebody out, in most cases, outside of the community, knowing that they can search for those grants and look for them. How do we foster people who want to develop these other community programs, these schools in the poorer neighborhoods, right? Instead of, I mean, test scores are, it's interesting. The whole thing I find fascinating. And I don't necessarily mean that in a good way, but you know, my daughters go to a fairly wealthy school system. My oldest is in high school, and they get a lot of money. Now they have a decent amount of diversity, but they get money because their test scores are good, but their test scores are good because it's an affluent community, and parents sit home with their kids every night, and they all have computers, you know,
Right,
not all
right.
of them, but most of them. So how do we solve that when not all families have internet, and not all families have parents who can sit home at night and help kids do their homework, and not all schools have even the knowledge or the access to searching for the grants?
Right. And see, this is where the administration team needs to be completely transparent and say, this is where we need help. And, some school divisions will have a grant writer on board. Sometimes you could have a great writer out in the community that is a parent or grandparent and say, do you mind helping us out with this?
Okay.
There are things such as the Sprint 21 where they give out devices that enable kids to get connected for free.
That's awesome.
And this is one of these opportunities that unlock so much potential for kids that you said right there just don't have the financial resources to make that happen.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I didn't know about the Sprint 21 thing. Mm-hmm. We're going to link to that in the show notes, everybody. If you have children and they go to public school and they aren't aware of this, make them aware of it. This is how we create change. Okay, Erin, so tell us what led you. Your book is called Blank Check, and I have been privileged enough to get an early reader copy. I just got it this morning, so I haven't read it yet, but I can't wait to. Tell us what led you to writing it, what the book is about, and what you hope will come from it.
Well, I had written my first book about 5 years ago, and it was called Awakening Your STEM School. And it really was to show businesses in the community and schools that no matter where you are in the spectrum, the secret to the new economy is developing a robust school, ideally through STEM, STEAM. And through this journey, you have a series of steps where you bridge partnerships and you create grants and new opportunities for kids.
Okay, love it.
So that's kind of the background to it. So a buddy of mine, we were sitting around, and we were having some incredible conversations because when alcohol is involved, nothing's off the table. And while we were talking about it, the question came up: how do we build the perfect public schools? And I looked at it, and he's like, "That's it. Don't make another cookbook. Do something that's really going to tap into the imagination of people." And 23 drafts later, 2.5 years later, it's finally coming to fruition because, I want the people to stretch their imagination and not be locked into a nonfiction world. My ultimate dream is to raise awareness to folks that no matter where you are in the world, education can always be improved upon. Because when you think about it, our children not only are our most precious resource, but what if it's your child that's failing? Wouldn't you want the best for your child? We do it when it comes to getting the best doctors. And if we don't like that doctor, we need to find another one. Children are not so fortunate to have that opportunity.
Yeah.
And it's our responsibility as a society to make sure that we give our kids the best that we can offer. And the only way that I can see how we do it is to bring it with a blank check and an involved and spirited community.
I love that. I want to know who's writing the blank check, but I dig it. So I'm so fascinated by your decision to make this A, a novel, and B, a young adult novel. Mm-hmm. Why is it a young adult novel?
It's a young adult novel because I want kids to be owners of their education. And you think about the discussion that we're having right now. If you put this in an English classroom, let's say for juniors and seniors, and you actually have them talk about why it's important for them to understand their education, this can unlock opportunities for kids, and it becomes embedded at the grassroots level so that when kids in schools begin to see things flourish because they're open-minded and willing to take chances, and you have opportunities come in, it also kind of morphs into something incredible. But I also made it a young adult novel because every kid, just like every adult, kind of has their own crisis.
Sure.
And I want them to understand that no matter what they're going through, they're not alone. But through the end, they can become champions of anything that they decide to conquer.
I love it as a concept. What's your plan for, if this book is written for young adults and the idea, and I love it because I do believe, to quote old 80s music, that children are our future. No, I really do believe that. So how do you equitably get this book in the hands of as many kids as possible?
Well, one thing we're doing is we're trying to raise awareness to everybody and let people know this is not a political issue. I'm just trying to help solve the issue because I think it's time we look at a unified approach to fixing it. And, not only in America, but we're talking about the world.
Sure.
And by doing it at the student level, but also bringing it at the adult, hopefully legislative levels, they kind of find a crossroads where these conversations are taking place.
Yeah, I love that. Will there be some sort of grant for schools, lower income schools, to get access to copies of the book for kids?
I mean, I'm willing to do anything, and I think more importantly is how can we help each other?
Yeah.
Because to me, the more people know about the book, the more the book comes to life.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I do here is I help write grants for our school. And I don't mind picking up the phone and talking to an administrator. This is what I would suggest and just, helping each other. And in the education world, I found especially, we really network well, even though that we are different states away, or even different countries away because we all have the same vested interest.
Aaron, I wonder if it would be possible for us to somehow partner to put together some sort of grant initiative. If the Brave Files can partner with you on that and help get this book and these conversations more active in the schools that need it most, maybe we should figure out how to do that.
I would love the idea. I actually have a grant funding template that I help clients with and schools, to kind of understand that the more you can create the framework for it, the easier it is to write grants.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Definitely.
All right, well, let's do that. I know the hardback isn't coming out until September, but the ebook is available pretty soon, right? How can folks get their hands on that?
So just like traditional media, you can go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, depending on when you pick up the podcast, it will either be available or it'll tell you when it's becoming available. So you can definitely pre-order sales. And, I thank you for help sharing the message. To me, that's what it's about.
Yeah. Listeners, the book is called Blank Check. I'm curious. I write as well. I've written 3 books / journals on gratitude, the power of gratitude. Mm-hmm. And I've also done NaNoWriMo. Are you familiar with National Novel Writing Month?
I've heard of it. I don't know a whole lot about it, but I have heard of it.
So it's write every day for 30 days and get to 50,000 words, and you have a novel. I'm what they call a rebel because I never write fiction. I always write nonfiction. But I did this most recently. I did a memoir type book. And what I wanted to know from you is, how is it different writing a novel versus sort of a how-to book?
I think that's why it took me 23 drafts.
I feel that totally.
There's some similarities where you draw an outline and you start developing, but I kind of took the approach of, I'm sure you've read and seen The Martian, Andy Weir's movie. Incredible story. But what he does is he actually started off as chapter books, but he used the most realistic technology possible at the time he was writing the book. And that's what I tried to do, was try to find the most realistic research, the most realistic technology, and the most current situations that students can experience and weave that into the story without going beyond the theory of disbelief. So, it's a lot of back and forth because what you think is fresh may not be so fresh.
Yes.
Writing.
My kids tell me that all the time. I'm not allowed to say it's on fleek. I don't know. I can't even say it.
Okay, so you got banned from that too? Okay, so I'm not the only person.
No.
So I got banned from bad dad jokes, but I still find a way to
I am allowed to
in.
ask what the T is, though. Do you know what the T is?
No.
Oh, how can you? Oh, Aaron, this is important. All of you listeners, if you have kids. So the T is the new term for gossip. And if it's really good gossip, they say we got to spill hot tea. So it's like sitting down, having a cup of tea and talking to a friend, right? That's where it comes from. Yeah. So I am allowed to be like, okay, so what's the tea today? Yeah.
Oh, it's on.
Yeah, they are different. What was your writing practice, habit, style? How did you get the first draft done, least of all 23?
Getting up between 4 and 4:30 each morning and writing for about an hour and a half. And then on the weekends, I would just keep writing / researching. It's one of those things where I just stay committed to it.
Yeah.
And, I'd have little check off points. I'd have a little cork board where I would have chapters or key points within the chapters and rearrange them. To me, it was my therapy.
Yeah.
And I could write and feel like I could be creative. And when I got frustrated at work, then I would just bring it back home, but spin it in a positive way.
I love that. And I hear that from everybody. It's something that works well for me too, is a very structured, committed time for writing. And those are hard habits to build. I mean, 4:30 is really early, but I've had other folks tell me that was their time. Even though they were writing, that was their time to follow their dreams. And so I love that. And the creative outlet, finding creativity in your life is such an important element, I think.
Well, it should be for anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about this, have you heard of Sir Ken Robinson?
I haven't.
And the TED Talk? You need to listen to him.
Okay, we'll link to that.
He is brilliant. And he talks about how, creativity is needed in education.
Yes.
And when you think about this, part of workforce development, the necessity of it is creativity. And the skills that our kids need, that our employees need now, is creativity. And, even if it's a hobby that you enjoy doing, you're going to get creative with it.
Yeah.
So we need to find a way to foster that and really embellish it to the point of success.
I love that. Aaron, what would you say as you've gotten into this work, not necessarily with the book, but trying to make these massive overhaul changes in the school system, which really is what you're doing? What's the biggest struggle? What's most difficult?
I think for me, the biggest struggle is you've got teachers and students alike who feel defeated already.
Yeah.
And, I can't say it's understandably so, but we have to remind them it's never over until we are ready to say it's over. And those that are educators will understand that you get very tired in November, December, January. You get a little bit of spike.
Yeah.
You back up in February, March is a dread, and you have to keep believing. You have to keep flushing it out until it becomes the way you want it to be.
Absolutely.
That, to me, I think is the hardest battle, is to change the mindsets of the teachers that there is hope down the road. There is opportunity. You just got to hang on a little bit longer.
Yeah, I love that. What, though, has shocked you in a good way? What has really been a wonderful, pleasant surprise?
You talking about in the world or just in general?
Well, as it relates to the work that you're doing.
I think a lot of things that the workforce is doing is what education needs to be doing. Case in point, there's a lot of artificial intelligence, virtual reality that is actually out there in the workforce that has made learning for professionals so cool and so innovative.
My favorite thing about that is that it's helping different learning styles still be successful. People who just have a really hard time writing something out, but they can dictate it or, whatever. Like there's no reason that every child cannot be successful. There are enough resources. If somebody cares enough to figure out how to help them be successful, it's all there.
And see, you read my mind perfectly, because that's exactly where I'm going with this. Kids don't understand necessarily how to maximize their learning or their learning styles. And when you bring in AI, VR, and you just level the playing field. I've seen so many kids, special needs kids, EL kids, that are just so brilliant, but they don't know how to communicate it in one facet. But if you change a few things, and let's just say you make it kinesthetic instead of a linguistic test, they knock it out of the park. And that really helps not only with their confidence, but it shows them that they can sustain a very, very fruitful life.
Yeah. I love that so much because I feel like so many kids just get sort of thrown away because they don't have traditional learning styles. And this is my problem with standardized testing. I'll just go ahead and throw down the gauntlet there. I don't think that it's designed to really support everybody's learning. I just don't.
Not.
Yeah, I think it's a problem and it needs to go away.
And I get the reason for assessments because we all need to be accountable. But I agree with you. I think we need to assess through portfolios.
Yeah.
We need to assess through student talents. And I also think we need to give students a choice of the way they want to be assessed.
Yep. I love that. Can you just make that happen? That would make me really happy. Can you just do that nationally, please, Aaron?
I would love to do that.
I vote for you to be the next Secretary of Education. Can we get rid of Betsy and you can just take that role? Do that.
Oh my gosh, that's a conversation for another day.
No, but really, does it feel like this is brave work to you, Aaron?
In some ways, because I feel like some people are going to feel like I'm trying to damage education when I'm really not. I think for me...
Sounds like you're trying to save education to me.
That's the dream.
Yeah.
That's the dream. And I don't want people to think that I'm trying to point fingers. Because really, if we don't raise awareness and we don't bring everybody back at the table to rediscuss it and improve it, it's not going to get better.
So I agree with you. What can our listeners go out and do today to help make these changes, develop these skills in their children, create, positive growth in the school systems? What can we do?
There's a lot of things. I think number one is make sure you're connected to the school. And I get the parents who have to work those crazy hour jobs or they just have so many crazy schedules. But be a phone call or email away, especially if a teacher connects with you.
Yeah.
That's one of the most frustrating things is when teachers send an email and they try to reach out and they don't get a phone call back, and usually it's after hours that they're calling anyway.
Right. On their own time because they don't make much money.
Well, and that's true. I mean, there's a lot of moonlighting there. The second thing that I would definitely recommend is make sure kids, especially like women in STEM, get our young ladies involved in STEM activities.
Yeah.
NASA does so many things for free. For example, online, near their facilities, go to STEM camps, and do things like that where they are right there in the middle of it. And you'll be surprised. Well, you won't, but so many people will be surprised that the girls' products are a lot better than the guys' products.
How about we just have gender neutral products? Why the hell does it have to be gendered?
Even better.
Yeah, I can't with that. I really struggle. I did back to school night at the high school, which was really awful. I got to be honest. I mean, it was great to meet the teachers, but I hated high school when I was in it. I was like, why am I here? I don't want to be back here. But I was only one teacher out of 9 didn't gender the students. And I was really disappointed.
Wow.
Because it's important. In 2020, it's important to not gender students. Do you agree?
I think we have to respect every student, yes.
Yeah.
And I think that depends on what the family values are and keeping that in mind at the same time.
Right, when you're talking one-on-one, but when you're talking as a group, nobody gets harmed if you say your kids or your students.
Absolutely.
You do not have to say your sons and your daughters. You do not have to say that.
Right.
Right. So if you're talking to a family directly, of course, you would want to honor however their child wants to be referred. But I think as a group, sorry, I got off on a little tangent there, but I think it's important.
Okay.
And I my 6-year-old's obsessed with space, so now I'm going to go check out all the free resources that NASA has because I think that's super cool. But I would really like to see these programs lean towards gender neutral because it just doesn't cause any harm. It doesn't hurt anybody to pull out gender pronouns. It just doesn't. So anyway, sidetracked. I would love to know if you believe, as somebody, I've written 2 books and journals on, actually 3 books and journals on gratitude. which I believe is really important. And one of those books is called Grow Grateful, and it's geared towards kids and families. And it's designed for there to be intentional time for connection and reflection and helping young folks develop skills to empower their own happiness and well-being. So I'd love to know from you how you believe gratitude can play a role in the life of a child and also in a parent-child or mentor-child relationship.
It's an enormous thing because to me, it creates awareness that you need to be humble. You have to be appreciative of the things that are in your life. And at the same time, hopefully it'll give you something to strive for as well.
Yeah.
When you reflect on things, to me, that's the most powerful learning is making those adjustments. Even if it was a great lesson, it could turn into a perfect lesson. Or for a child, it's just trying to figure it out or really, polishing it so that it could potentially become marketable.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I just also love the idea of either a mentor or a parent just taking 5 minutes to truly deeply and intentionally connect with a child and hear what they're feeling, hear what they're saying, what they're finding to be grateful for.
Oh, absolutely. And to me, it should be not only at the table, but also at times when they get off the bus or, just before bedtime.
I like before bedtime. I think that's nice.
To me, that's special because you don't have a cell phone there, and it's really just that quality one-on-one time because kids want attention. And unfortunately, some of them make poor decisions because they need that attention.
I would love to see homeroom teachers or advisory teachers spend 5 minutes a day teaching their students about how to develop gratitude habits. How do we do that?
Number one, I would look and see if there's any curriculum out there that you could find something that's really aligning to your particular themes. For example, if it's a STEM school, see if there's any kind of gratitude concepts that you can weave in there.
Yeah.
Second thing potentially is just what you build in is what you become reality. Mm-hmm. To me in the morning, I think that's a great reflection time because what are we grateful for? What do we need to be thoughtful about today as we go throughout our steps?
Yeah, I agree. Well, I love that idea. If there's ever an aha moment for you on ways that we can connect and work together to bring gratitude into the classrooms, I hope you'll reach out because I'd really like to see that happen. I know for a fact, not only because I've seen it myself and I've seen it from my clients, but I'm certified in positive psychology. I've seen the science behind it. It changes lives.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
I mean, it changes the whole mindset.
So a natural progression question, which is one of my favorite questions ever. Aaron, how do you celebrate success, both big success and small wins?
I think one is I just say a little prayer to myself saying thank you, for the opportunity. And then if it's something super dynamic,
like
it's just
finishing that 23rd version of your book.
Oh, yeah. That was a going out to dinner night.
Yeah.
And just kicking it all to the side and just laughing and cutting up and just really having that intimate moment as a family.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's great. I absolutely believe that celebration is a key to future happiness and success. And I hope that that's something that you're bringing into the classrooms too, that you're helping educators and teachers do with their kids. It's so important. We often hear when children do what we think is wrong, but how often, especially in schools, are they hearing what they've done right and being honored and celebrated that way?
And that's part of the problem our society is we focus on the negativity so much. So when a teacher does call, the first thing a parent's going to think is, what do they do now? and I think we need to call for the great things too.
Absolutely.
Because to me, kids will replicate that more so often than if it's not necessarily a bad thing,
I totally agree. Absolutely. So you guys, don't be afraid. Listeners, don't be afraid. If your student's teacher calls, let's assume that they're calling to praise your child. Hopefully. Aaron, what is your favorite charitable organization to support?
Our church. That is one of the things that we do. I also like Wounded Warriors.
Yeah, this is a great organization. We donated, our Patreon group page donates 10% of the profits every month to a different charity. And we did Wounded Warriors 1 month.
Yep.
It was great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that. Would you share your 3 words with us one last time?
Absolutely. Energetic, motivated, and determined.
And clearly lunch is over.
Lunch is over, yes.
Energetic, motivated, and determined. I love it. I think that we've done a nice job of discussing those words and how they tie together nicely to create your story. I want to thank you so very much for taking the time in a busy day to come and share this with us. And hopefully we can create a ripple effect of helping people get more involved in their schools and being part of creating this positive change. Aaron, thank you.
Really, Heather, thank you. I mean, it's an honor to be on your show. I feel like I've known you for years, and
Thank you.
I look forward to doing some great things with you down the road.
I think that'd be a lot of fun. I'd look forward to that. You know, listeners, Frederick Douglass once famously said, "It's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men." I changed the word to adults because, the gender thing. But it's easier to build strong children than to repair broken adults. So the future is in our children's hands, but currently our children are in our hands. How are we going to help them do more than just survive? How will we guide them into thriving? What are we building that's worth leaving behind for them? Think about these things and please take action and get involved. I would love to know your thoughts on this episode, how we can grow and do better, or what you're out doing bravely. Give us a call at 312-646-0205 and share with us. This is Heather Vickery reminding you today and always to go out and choose bravely. Hey friends, I want to share something really exciting with you. We already know you enjoy listening to podcasts because you're listening to this one, but I'm also betting you enjoy audiobooks. And hey, listen, if you don't already enjoy audiobooks, then it's time to check them out. That's why I'm really excited to share Libro.fm with you. They are an incredible new platform for listening to audiobooks. And by choosing Libro.fm over other audiobook services, you are supporting a local bookstore of your choice and investing in your local community. Libro.fm offers over 150,000 audiobooks via their primary platform, which, by the way, they built with love and from scratch because they're a small business also. They even offer bookseller recommendations for great audiobook options. You can sign up right now via www.vickeryandco.com/LibroFM. That's vickeryandco.com/LIBROFM. And when you do, you'll get one free audiobook of your choice, and the proceeds will go to your favorite local bookstore. Now, check what I just said there. You're going to get a free book, and the proceeds are still going to go to your local bookstore because Libro.fm makes sure that their booksellers get paid even when they give a promo to customers. I've listened to over 20 audiobooks this year alone. I especially love listening to memoirs read by the author, and it feels great knowing that all of my purchases support my local bookstore, The Book Table, in Oak Park, Illinois. Libro.fm. The same audiobooks, the same price, but a completely different story. Check them out right now at vickeryandco.com/LibroFM. You've been listening to The Brave Files, stories from people living courageously. To learn more about the show, find our show notes, or get some great bonus content, visit thebravefilespodcast.com. And we'd love to know what you think. You can give us a call at 312-646-0205. Let us know your thoughts on the episode, the show in general, or maybe share with us how you're out choosing bravely. This episode is brought to you by Vickery & Co. Success Coaching, coaching that helps you maintain a life well lived and a business well run. Learn more at vickeryandco.com. Our music is produced by Matt Lewis. Follow him on Instagram at mattmmusic or visit his website, theunionband.com. We couldn't do any of this without our extraordinary audio engineer, Andrew Olson. Learn more about him and check out his work at findandrewolson.com. And special thanks to our associate producer, Kim Statler. I'm your host and executive producer, Heather Vickery. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next week.